And it is a kickoff to a whirlwind 2 weeks. Coming up, Capitol Hill is bracing for what could be an historic week in Washington. Two major stories expected to dominate the headlines. First, the Justice Department's Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, set to release his long-awaited report on possible FISA abuse at the FBI tomorrow, putting fresh scrutiny on our nation's intelligence leaders. Also tomorrow, House Democrats moving full speed ahead on impeachment with the next Judiciary Committee hearing. But first, my first guest says the public has yet to hear one vital piece of testimony.
It's impossible to bring this case forward, in my view, fairly, without us knowing who the whistleblower is and having a chance to cross-examine them about any biases that they may have. So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
Joining me right now exclusively is South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. He is chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we are thrilled to have you here in studio,
Thank you.
Senator. Thank you so much for being here. You said that to me a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Is it still dead on arrival unless you hear from the whistleblower?
Well, the whole process is illegitimate in the House. It's not just a whistleblower. You don't want to create a situation where an anonymous person can start impeachment proceedings against the President of the United States. You can't get a parking ticket based on an anonymous allegation. The hearings were held behind closed doors. The Intel Committee gathered all the facts. The President's lawyer was never allowed to participate. They asked to call witnesses in the Judiciary Committee. They had one hearing in the committee with 4 law professors, and Nancy Pelosi said, we're going to move forward with the articles of impeachment. This is a joke of a process. It's dangerous to the country. It's the first impeachment scenario in the country started in-house, not with outside counsel. Whitewater prosecutor Ken Starr. You had Mueller looking at all things Russia and Trump. You had prosecutors in the Nixon case outside the system. This is being driven by Schiff and Nadler, Pelosi, partisan people. I think it's going to meet a quick end in the Senate.
Who are some of the people you are going to want to hear from if, in fact, this does go to a trial? And will the president get a fair trial? Are you going to demand that people like the whistleblower, Adam Schiff, Alexandra Chalupa, Fusion GPS, are these some of the people or organizations you're going to want to question?
There's 2 ways to do this. In the trial, you can have the president present a defense to prove, in fact, that maybe the Ukraine was interfering in our election. The Russians stole the emails, not the Ukraine, but there's articles suggesting Ukrainian officials met with Democratic operatives in 2016. I don't know if that's true, but here's what I'm going to do with the trial. I'm going to try to get it over as quickly as possible, listen to what the House case, let them present their case, and if there's nothing new and dramatic, I would be ready to vote, and we can do all this other stuff through congressional oversight.
So are you saying you're not going to have people come down and
I am saying that I'm going to end this as quickly as I can for the good of the country. When 51 of us say we've heard enough, the trial is going to end. The president's going to be acquitted. He may want to call Schiff. He may want to call Hunter Biden. He may want to call Joe Biden. But here's my advice to the president. If the Senate is ready to vote and ready to acquit you, you should celebrate that. And we can look at this other stuff outside of impeachment. Impeachment is tearing the country apart. I don't want to give it any more credibility than it deserves.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, I mean, all of this time, yes, they're trying to rush this through. The Democrats want to get this done before the end of the year and before the Iowa caucuses and before we learn more about the IG report. And yet there seems to have been a wrecking ball thrown at our democracy with Adam Schiff getting people's phone records. I mean, what do you think about that? Adam Schiff getting the phone records of Devin Nunes, of John Solomon?
I think it's dangerous. What he did, he was, I think, looking at Rudy and found out Rudy made some calls to these folks.
So Rudy's not allowed to make these phone calls?
No, he certainly can. But here's what I would tell Adam Schiff. Do you really want to start calling other members, Republicans, members of Congress in oversight? Do you want me to call you to the Senate as part of Senate oversight? Where does this insanity?
Will you call him?
No, I will not.
Why?
Because I'm not going to participate in things I think will destroy the country. I'm not going to call a bunch of House members to come to the Senate as part of oversight. Now, if you're a House member and you participated, you're not subject, you're not above the law, but we're not going to turn the Senate into a circus. And I would tell Schiff, what you're doing is very dangerous for separation of powers here.
Just the idea of getting that information into the public view so that the public can start speculating, oh, why did Giuliani call this one? And why was John Solomon on the phone with Giuliani?
Adam Schiff is doing a lot of damage to the country, and he needs to stop. Mueller spent 2 years and $25 million looking at Trump. This whole Ukrainian stuff is a joke. They got the money. They got the meeting with the president. They didn't investigate Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. There is no there.
I understand, but it's not stopping, Senator. You know, you say, yeah, he needs to stop, but he's not. For 3 years, he said collusion was in plain sight.
Yeah, well,
where's the accountability for that? Let me hear your thoughts on the IG report. We're going to get that.
The accountability comes in November of 2020 when the public sees what the House has done with their majority. They spent all their time trying to destroy the Trump presidency. They've done nothing beneficial to the American people. You know who may be the most valuable player for the Republican Party in the 2020 election cycle is Adam Schiff.
So in terms of the FISA